Well, good day everybody, and thanks for stopping by. Hey, we're out here in the wood yard. Figured I would give you a little update, show you around a little bit before we get started. Today we're going to do something I've been wanting to do for a while. I'll be honest, it's basically an excuse for me to do this, so I'll explain that in a minute. But if any of you watched the last video, you seen old Fisher hijack the camera. It's giving me grief for not running the log splitter. So I figured I'd show you what Fisher has been up to. I was actually gone this past weekend on a motorcycle trip, and old Fisher's been out here with the old X27 whacking his brains out, and I gave him credit. He says I haven't been splitting any wood. This'll make 1.5 trailer loads. I'll call it 2, but he still hasn't quite caught up with what I've produced yet this year. So, but the help has been fantastic, and having him helping out, like this past weekend, not being home and still having some firewood produced, that's just fantastic. So it was a huge help, and I actually did sell a half a face cord of wood while I was gone. I gotta deliver that later this week, so show you, he's also been working on the log pile. So we had pretty much split all the stuff that was out here, or Fisher had, with the exception of stuff that I'm going to use for turn into boiler wood. So Fisher's been out here cutting on the log pile too, which brings us back to what we're going to do today. Let's kind of go over the chainsaws that I have, and the primary reason for doing this is I don't use them all as much as I used to. So I figured this would give me a good opportunity to just drag all the saws out and run them. But the only concern with that today is it is very breezy, so I'm hoping the wind noise won't be too bad on the camera, because I really don't want to keep dragging stuff in and out of the barn. I'd really just rather stay out here and get some stuff done. And anyways, I'll turn you around here and show you what we got to work with. All right, so there you can see the collection of power saws that I possess. It's not a huge collection, but it's a fairly good assortment. This here is the only saw we're not going to run today. This was my very first power saw, this old Homelite. I got this when I was a senior in high school, paid $40 for it, and it was my workhorse for several years before I got my first steel. And after getting a steel, well, I just haven't looked back. I just keep buying steels. Why did I start with steels? We'll answer that question real quick. Where I lived growing up, the only 2 power saw dealers we had around us was an Echo dealer and a Stihl dealer. But we had like 1 Echo dealer and we had like 3 Stihl dealerships. So Stihls were much easier to come across, much easier to get parts. And honestly, the very first one I ever got was a gift. I'll explain that later. But the reason we're not going to run the old Homelite today is I don't think I ran this saw in 15 years. I actually just found it in the shed up by my shop like 2 weeks ago. We were in there doing some cleaning, getting stuff out so we could do yard work and put bug killer on the yard and that sort of stuff. And I just happened to run across this on the shelf up there, I honestly forgot it was in there. But so maybe at some point I'll take some time and see if we can't get this running. But today I'm not going to mess with that. So we're just going to run all the steel stuff, and I'll give you a little rundown on maybe kind of what possessed me to get those particular saws and what I use them for, I guess. Sounds good anyways. All right, we'll get to it. So I'm going to take my 025. We'll run it first. But the first thing I want to say is, with the exception of the 025, I can't tell you really what kind of shape any of these chains are in. So that's another reason, is some of them I haven't ran for a little while. The 025, I know it's pretty sharp, because if you caught the last video, it was what I was using to cut the cookies for the table decorations for my wife. And so I know it's still pretty sharp. And then I know my 3 big saws should be in pretty good shape, because I haven't used them since I come back from Hoosier Firewood Hysteria. So this will be the first thing we run. This is my 025. It has an 18-inch bar on it. This is actually the very first steel chainsaw I ever owned. I actually received the 025 as a Christmas gift. My home light, like I said, I'd actually locked it up helping my father-in-law out. And that following Christmas, he actually gifted me this 025. And that was my workhorse for many, many years. This was my primary firewood saw from I got this December 2001. And we started burning wood at home in 2004. Yeah, 2004, 2005 was the first winter I burnt wood for heat. And the 025 here, that was the primary saw that I used for firewood. But it's been an excellent saw. And anyways, I'll quit yakking. We'll fire the old girl up. We'll do a little hacking with it. .025. If you're a homeowner, like just have a wooded lot in town, you know, live in a subdivision, you got to do some storm cleanup, stuff like that, and you're looking for a saw, I think that Stihl 025, or today it would be a MS 250 or 251. I don't think you could go wrong with it. Fantastic little saw. Good power, not very heavy. 99% of the time, if I'm going to go out here in the yard and I got to clean up a fallen tree limb or something like that, 99% of the time I grab the 025. I don't grab one of the big saws, just because this thing's light and easy to pack around. Even when I go out and do trail cleanup, a lot of the times, because you're generally not cutting big stuff, I take the 025 with me. But good saw. I love that saw. Been with me a long time. All right, we'll go to the next one. Second saw, MS 290. All right, that chain's definitely a little dull. So that one will, that one we're gonna need to do a little sharpening on. That's another thing I'm trying to figure out is some of the stuff like this saw, the next saw we're gonna use, I haven't ran for a little while, so I don't remember where stuff's at. And I'll be honest, I'm out here after work, and I didn't want to take the time to go through and hand file stuff. I just wanted to get out here and run some stuff. So the MS290, like I said, it's been a pretty good little saw. One of the primary reasons I've kept it around is like if Fisher and one of his friends, like last summer, they were going to his buddy's house and doing some tree cleanup, and so this is one of the saws I'd let them take, because I didn't want to send them with one of my big saws, but this and the next saw is the ones I would usually let them take. And so I basically keep it for other people to use. That sounds terrible. I just don't like sharing my big saws. What can I say? Hang on, I got a big gnarly ant on me. All right. But yeah, so we're gonna need to sharpen a chain on that one. In all honesty, I'm gonna grab a sharp chain out of the chain locker and put on that and hang that dull one on the wall. Just because I'm not probably gonna use it anytime soon. But like today, it's good to get it out and use it. That's about the only time it gets ran anymore. That's another saw I'll get out if I'm just doing some limb cleanup in the yard. I will grab that just for the sole fact of getting it out and running it, just so it has some run time on it. Some days I think I should start getting rid of some stuff and just keep the stuff I use all the time. But then about the time that happens, I'll have a friend or a family member that needs a chainsaw, and it's easy to go to the barn and grab like this or the next saw and let somebody use that, and then I still have the stuff I use on a regular basis to use. So I think that's the primary reason I keep it around. And that, and if something breaks, I got a spare, so that's a plus. All right. So next up is the MS311. There you have it, the MS311. that thing, like I said, it's kind of heavy for the, I think this is a 59 cc. So it's a 59 cc saw. To me, it's kind of heavy for a 59, a 60 cc saw. It's kind of heavy. But I will say this, I've never had an issue or a concern of a lack of power with it. And on top of that, you probably know this saw has been sitting for at least a month without running, and you seen how quick it started up. This and my 462, these are by far the best two starting saws I own. I think that's part of the reason I like carrying this in the truck, is because the son of a gun, it don't matter if it's hot or it's cold. I just know a couple pulls and the thing's running, and and as you can see from the chips on this thing, I do keep a pretty good chain on this because of it being in the truck. Like if I stop and I cut after work, generally that same evening, if I've cut, I grab the hand file. As long as I didn't hit any, like find any metal or hit any rocks or anything, as soon as I'm done, I'll throw a hand file to that thing and just touch it right back up. And every second or third hand filing, I'll touch up the breakers or the depth gauges. But it's a pretty good little workhorse. Like I said, my only real complaint with the 311 is it is kind of heavy, which sounds silly because I really love my 462, but and it's a big saw, and I don't know, it drives me nuts on this one that it's that heavy, but it's a trooper. So we'll go to the next one. Okay, so we do get a little out of order here. I guess technically I'm going in order of size at this point. 441C. This is the first M-Tronic saw I ever got. I did buy this used, so we'll get the 441 fired up, and looks like I'm going to have to mark some more logs. So we'll get it started up and we'll do a little cutting. So there you are with the MS441. Great saw, a saw that's not produced anymore. And I will be honest, after running the new 400s, there's been a debate whether or not to get rid of the 441 and buy a new MS400C. Really, the only thing that has stopped me from doing that is it's paid for. You know, it's this thing ain't costing me any money other than 2-stroke gas and bar oil, and occasionally a chain. So I just haven't seen the need to upgrade it yet. But I would, if something this size is in your future, after running these, I actually got to run this head-to-head with a new 400C down at Jennings with at 765 guys, and I think it was Mike from K&L Firewood's MS400. I ran it, and then I ran this, like I said, side by side, and the MS400 is definitely a horse compared to this thing. more chain speed. I think it's got more power. I've never looked at the specs or anything like that. I know it's I want to say a 400C is like a 68cc chainsaw. So this has a few more cc's, but the 400 I definitely think would, from my comparison, it would definitely kick its butt. So if you're interested in that 68 70cc saw, if you can find an old 441, good saw. Even the old 044s, man, that was the first big chainsaw I ever ran, was an 044, and that thing was a horse. But you get into this newer stuff, some of it's pretty hard to beat. But that's 441. We'll move up the line. The MS462. What can I say? This is definitely my favorite saw in the whole group. This thing is just an absolute horse. It's got a 25-inch bar on it. Sorry, the neighbors are pulling in with a planter. But by far, this is definitely my favorite saw of all. This is the only steel chainsaw I've ever bought new. My buddy Mark, you've heard me probably talk about him on the videos before. He's the guy that I do most of my wood cutting with, and Mark runs like he's got a couple 460s and a 461, and that's kind of what got me into that size saw, was running his saws. And so I made up my mind that I was going to go buy me a brand new 462, and so I hunted around, and like I said, I was a little quirky because I was scared to death to buy an M-Tronic saw. So I actually hunted around for this, because this is a 462. This is not M-Tronics. And I actually hunted to find this, because every place I went, they had M-Tronic saws. And now that I've had the 441, I'll be honest, the M-Tronic thing, I was just being a nut job. I should have never ever worried about that. I think it was too many years of working on equipment that I was scared to death to put wires on stuff. It's just easy to work on stuff that didn't have wires on it. But this has been a fantastic saw, and I'm gonna shut up, fire this beast up, and we're gonna do a little cutting. Well, that wasn't good. Now the chain on the 462 needs sharpened. Apparently that pallet still had a piece of banding attached to it that I didn't know was there. When I got through that piece, I found the banding. So, all in all though, that's 462. The thing's just a horse. For making firewood, for what I use chainsaws for primarily, if I could only buy one chainsaw, and I know there's a lot of folks going to say, especially on the steel side, going to say 500i, 500i, 500i. Power, weight, and cost. I don't think you can beat the 462. All in all, it is just an absolute trooper. Excellent saw. But when you start figuring out the 500i definitely has a little more power. I would even venture to say it's got a little more chain speed. But as far as having a saw to cut firewood with and having something that you're gonna be able to run a 25 or a 28 inch bar on so you can stand up and buck without an issue, 462. When I bought this, it was like $200 cheaper than a 500i. And like I said, I know it weighs just slightly less than the 500i, and I don't feel that cost and that weight offsets the power gain. So that's the reason I still I kind of favor the 462. I have a tendency to try and look at things always from an economical standpoint. I justify paying certain prices for things on what they can do for me as far as saving me money, saving me time, and the longevity. You know, I'm buying something I know that'll last. But that's kind of the reason I went the 462 route. Nothing wrong. Like I said, if you want a 500i, get a 500i. No skin off my back. I don't really care. But this has been definitely has been a purchase that made me smile. So great saws. I don't think you'll find anybody that doesn't like a 462. Even the Husqvarna guys, you talk to some Husqvarna guys, even those guys will tell you the 462 is a pretty ripping saw. So and I've never ran a 572 or a 372 Husky. I would at some point in time like to kind of stick these head to head. I need to get with Jenin and have him help me out with this scenario, because he's got Husqvarna stuff. So, but anyways, that's 462. We got 2 more saws to do, and then we're gonna wrap this up. So the Stihl 066. This was the second to last saw that I've purchased. I honestly, I didn't have a good reason for buying it. I just wanted a 90cc chainsaw. What we're gonna do, I'm not gonna buck any logs. We're gonna rip a couple rounds here with the 066. So right now it's running a 28 inch bar on it. I run, if I'm just bucking and ripping, I generally run the 28 inch. And then I also have a 36 inch bar for it. That's what I got to run in the chainsaw mill. So we'll get it fired up. Now I'll be honest, I've already had this thing running because sometimes it's cantankerous to start. So I did let it warm up a little bit ago. as you can see, the 066, it is a noodle making beast. This is the only saw I run skip tooth chain on, and the reason I do that is that does help out with some chain speed. Still ain't anywhere close to being as fast as a 462, but it makes a huge difference on how fast it cut for me. So I do always run, whether it's the 28-inch bar or the 36-inch bar, I'm gonna run a skip tooth full chisel chain on it. So that is the 066. Okay, we saved the big dog for last, so be prepared. The GTA 26. You know, my wife wanted this. Well, she was sending me pictures of battery powered saws. She wanted something that she could like trim her lilac bush, and you know, when she's out mowing, she wanted something she could trim low hanging limbs with. And I don't remember, she sent me some turd from one of the big box stores, and I was like, I think we can find something better. And sure enough, when I seen that I could get something that size from Stihl, I thought that's what I'm buying. And let me tell you, it was sorry about that, bugs. Let me tell you, that was a great decision. This thing has been a trooper, and if you guys want something that's quick and convenient for limbing, trimming stuff around your property, this thing is hard to beat. My local dealer, like when I purchased this, I bought the saw, a spare battery. They had chains for it. Heck, they even had the files for it, because this runs a 1/4-inch Pico chain. So like I was able to get everything I needed all at one time, which was one thing I wasn't sure I was going to be able to do. But sure enough, the only thing they didn't keep stock on at the time was the bar oil for it. The bar oil comes in a little squeeze bottle, and the only time they tell you to oil it is anytime you change the battery, or if it's sat and you pull it out to reuse it, to oil it. So like I just put some bar oil on it tonight, and you just drip it on the top of the bar and then run the chain. So we got some limb wood here. I don't know, kind of see how big it is compared to the bar, but it works great and it's convenient. I mean, it's a little easier when the log's not moving, but I'm not gonna lie, I thought it was silly when we bought it, but between myself, my wife, and we use the absolute heck out of this thing. In all honesty, it really needs to have the chain sharpened. I just haven't had a chance to do it. It's still producing some pretty good chips. The only reason I say that is I've noticed even with a freshly charged battery, it's not cutting quite as fast as it did when the chain was fresh. The chips still look really good, but it just doesn't cut quite as fast. But we do use this a ton. So if you're looking for something like this, to do some small pruning, trimming, I know that's what this is geared towards, is pruning. The last time we had to take down a tree, my wife come out and helped me, and she was doing, I bet she did 70% of the limbing and was using this thing. So it worked really good. Honestly, I don't know that we've ever ran it out of battery, just because you're not running it constant. It does have a little meter on it that tells you when the battery's getting low. great buy. I think I paid like 150 bucks for this thing, and then I want to say the battery was the spare battery was another 50 bucks. But between the spare battery, the files, and a spare chain, I'm sure I've got less than 250 bucks and everything. And it was absolutely worth it. I would buy it again in a heartbeat, just due to the fact of how much we've actually used it. So, well, that gets us through them. So we have officially been through all of the chainsaws at my house. Well, there we go. We made it through all the saws I have. So I would show them to you, but I got called away for supper, and so I put them up real quick. So I didn't have it to do it. I don't know if you can tell, it is starting to get dark here, so I wanted to get that done before I ran out of daylight. But that's a pretty good rundown. Like I said, that's everything from the 025 all the way up to the 066, and pretty much in order of purchase it too. With the exception, I did buy my 462 I bought before I bought my 441. I think I bought my 441 about a month. That's funny. I think I bought my 441 about a month after I bought my 462. I just wanted another, after having that 462 and running it, I just wanted another 70 plus cc chainsaw. And it was a good buy. I'm not upset with any of the saws I have. They all serve their purpose. Some get used more than others. And I know a lot of folks say, you know, run the big saw with a big bar, stand up to buck. And I get that. It does save your back a ton. But on camera, I probably run the 462 a lot. In all honesty, I do that because I like the way it sounds. But if I'm not, in all honesty, if I'm not cutting great big stuff, or I'm not going to cut stuff that I have to rip, generally I'm running the excuse me, I'm running the 025. The 025, that thing is just, it doesn't weigh anything. You can come out here, even if I don't bend over a lot when I'm cutting. I don't know if folks have ever paid any attention, but even like cutting in the log pile, when I start getting down to the ground, I'm fortunate enough that I can squat and it doesn't bother my knees. So I squat down and cut that way, so I'm not being bent over all the time. So running an 18-inch bar on that thing works out really well. But I love running the 025. But I would say in order, or in reality and use, probably the 462 gets ran the most, then the 025, then the 441, and then the 311. And then I would say the 066. The 290, since I bought the, since I got that 311, in all honesty, the 290, I haven't ran very much. I do think, me and Fisher were talking when I got home this weekend. Fisher had been talking about him being out here cutting, and I know Fisher said he runs the 290, and I've told him he can run the other saws, but I think he runs the 290 because he doesn't see me use it. I guess, I don't know, I've never really asked him why he picks that saw. But hey, if he wants to run it, he can run it. I don't care. Yeah. Whatever, right? If I had my pick of the litter, there's a... Well, you already know what my pick of the litter is. Anyways, I'm going to quit rambling on. like I said, I hope you all found this useful, or at least entertaining. And we are going to wish you all a good week. Hope you all have a good week. And I'll see you soon. Thanks for watching.